I don't know what it was.
Oh my god, I love this boss! He's the cutest thing ever! I want him as a pet! I want him forever!
It looks like you, Maz.
I want him forever!
They made a boss that looks like you. I caught that one.
Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today I want to talk about Dragonflight Protection Warrior. I got beta, I went in and started testing, and I had an entire day where I just did not want to get off of the spec at all. It was so much fun. I cannot wait for Mythic Plus, testing to actually get in some more difficult content, but for right now, we're just going to have to talk about Heroic. Before we get started, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We are just barreling towards 4K subs. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support. I'm honestly flabbergasted. There is a Discord link down below if you wish to, talk about anything Prot Warrior, any of the tanks, anything. There's a wonderful group of people down there, in there, that are just absolutely amazing. There is a Twitch link down below if you wish to watch me stream. The current sub goal is a Charmander 1D stream. So that interests you at all, go and check it out, the Twitch link down below, and there is a Patreon link down below if you wish to support me directly. Now let's get into it. So obviously the first question is Prot Warrior really as good as I'm hearing? Usually the question is Prot Warrior any good? Well, we all know it is. But is Prot Warrior actually that good? And right now, in the main testing that we're doing, yeah, it's really, really good. The amount of talents that we have at our disposal, with the level of customization that we can go into and really work around and customize our rage generation, our defensives, and just our general DPS output is actually pretty outstanding, and there's a lot of things that are going to scale very, very well with higher keys. One of the first things I noticed when I was doing the heroic testing is how hard Ravager actually slaps. Like, I was noticing it 4 seconds after putting it down, going, holy crap, what's my DPS here? So what they did is in Shadowlands, it's a 45-second cooldown. It's a minute and a half now, but they upped its DPS to compensate, and they gave us 2 different talent nodes that we can actually choose to customize that Ravager. So there's Dance of Death. So if your Ravager helps to kill an enemy, so just basically does damage, your next Ravager lasts 2 seconds longer and deals 20% increased damage. The other one is Storm of Steel, which gives you 2 charges of Ravager, but it also increases its, but decreases its damage by 40%. But I feel like they actually did a little bit more than double the damage. So even with 2 charges at minus 40%, this is going to absolutely still slap. Just, maybe not as hard per cast, but you're going to have it twice as often. And it generates 15 rage instead of 10 every time it deals damage. This is actually sneaky super good, because the rage generation right now is good, but in heavy AoE scenarios where you just need to spam ignore pains and shield blocks to kind of really stay alive, you're going to be able to do that with this talent. Now, is it going to be the de facto play? I don't know. Shield charge is stupid good. Shield charges on a 45-second cooldown with no minimum range anymore. So, and it deals a considerable amount of damage, and the talent choice nodes that they put under it, Battering Ram, Shield Charge, Critical Strike Chance, and Critical Strike Damage is increased by 15%, and Shield Charge increases your auto attack speed by 20% for 20 seconds. This is that little sneaky little bit at the end that is actually insanely good, because as you may know with Devastator, your auto attacks deal more damage, and you have a 20% chance to reset the remaining cooldown of Shield Slam. So the faster you attack, the more Shield Slam procs you are going to get. And that sort of synergy is, those sorts of synergies really are what make the Prot Warrior tree so friggin' good. Is there's a lot of different talent options that you can take that are really good on their own and feel really good on their own, but also have synergies with multiple talents. And that's one thing I'm super excited for. But we can't forget that the mini Reprisal is coming back, Champion Bulwark. Like I've said in another video, I am actually a fan of the Reprisal Legendary. I just hate how reliant we are on it. Because it forces us into kind of this degenerate playstyle that we have to use the Reprisal to get shield block, but that's no longer the case. We're going to have easy access to bolster, And we're gonna, like, enduring defensives, if you think you need it, where shield block lasts 2 seconds longer. We have easy access to heavy repercussions once we have enough haste, but that's another thing. But Champion's Bulwark, shield charges, damage is increased by 20%, grants you a shield block for 4 seconds, a proc of revenge, and generates an additional 30 rage for a total of 50. This is just a bonkers fun ability to press. Gives you an extra movement outside of, you know, your 2 charges of charge and intervene if you do need it. A lot of fun to play around. The Violent Outburst tier set, the 2-piece, is coming back. Honestly, it meshes super well with the entire kit. It's a lot of fun. The additives of things like Thunderlord just really work so well with booming voice and make you want to hit Demo Shout all of the time. But you can also set up some really juicy shield charge, Ravager, Thunderous Roar combos by just, you know, rushing into battle, hitting Avatar, hitting Demo Shout, and just blasting into everything. And that's not your rotation. That's a very kind of condensed, you know, these are some things that you can do for big damage. You also need to gain threat before you just start hitting DPS cooldowns, because your DPS are going to hit DPS cooldowns and then go splat, so that's not something you want to do. So you want to do a little bit of setup, obviously, but the setup is very fluent, and like the Rend Thunderclap Blood and Thunder is just, oh man, this is one of the things that I had said I wanted back in my wish list, and I am so happy it's back. It is so fun to play. I am super high on Prot Warrior right now, if you cannot tell. The build that I went into as well had Avatar, Thunderous Roar with 1 point into the cooldown reduction. I also had the Unstoppable Force. I put in 1 point into Shockwave. Now, let's take aside all of the comments I've made about Shockwave in the past, which I still fully stand by. This is one thing we need to understand. I still fully stand by that statement. I don't believe Shockwave is on the same row as Spear of Bastion, Thunderous Roar, and Avatar. They're not equal to one another. But just because they're not equal to one another doesn't mean that you can't pretty easily go grab it. The way the tree's set up, and this is probably by design, and it makes sense, is the stat bonuses, Armor to the Teeth, Wild Strikes, and Cruel Strikes all require 2 talent points to get down to Avatar, Thunderous Roar, and Spear of Bastion. Endurance Training only requires 1 point to go down to Shockwave, which by design kind of proves what, you know, me, and a lot of the community have been saying, that Shockwave isn't equal to Thunderous Roar, Avatar, and Spear of Bastion, because it's not. It is an AoE, and I'm not saying that it isn't good. This, like, one of the things with the WoW community is, if it's not good, it's terrible. That's not true at all. Shockwave is still good. It's just not as good as Spear of Bastion, Thunderous Roar, Avatar. You know, things can be both. Things can be not as good as something and still be good. But it only requires 1 point to go down in Shockwave, making this a lot easier of a pick on the talent tree itself to be able to go get. And while you're still pretty easily able to go grab the things that you want. Now, I've been running with Avatar and Thunderous Roar because I've played with Spear of Bastion for, you know, many seasons now in Shadowlands. I know how it works. I don't need to test it. And in all honesty, like I said, I just played with it for a bunch of seasons, so unless it is, like, overpoweringly crazy good, I'm probably not going to play it that much, but who knows? The nice thing with these trees is there is a lot of options and customization for how you want, and really kind of get away with things the way you want to get away with things. If you want to take Thunderous Roar, and maybe it's, you know, 10% not as good, and you want to take Spear of Bastion, go right ahead. But if you want to take Thunderous Roar, go right ahead too, right? There's a lot of different playstyles with this that you can still play with and still be very viable while not fully optimal. And we've already had this discussion on the channel before between viable and optimal, but whatever. But the amount of stops we're getting as well is definitely something that needs to be spoken of. Intimidating Shout, Storm Bolt, Shield Charge, Shock Wave, like, really a lot of really good stops. And if you want another full silence, you can go into Disrupting Shout, making your AoE taunt 1.5 minutes and causing a full silence for 6 seconds whenever you cast it. This is really, really good. Especially there's quite a few dungeons that I have been in where just having this could have literally brought everything right to me and make it easier to pack up certain things. There's a lot of archer mobs that are currently kind of a little difficult to move through, like, no LOS options. But there's also a lot of casters where by just getting this off in a 14-yard radius versus the 10-yard radius is going to be like sleeper good in certain dungeons and is going to be a pick in, you know, like I said, in certain dungeons. Another thing that's going to scale up very well, actually, I think, is Tough as Nails. This is the new name for Shield Spike. Blocking an attack deals 30% attack power physical damage to the attacker, ignoring armor, generates high threat. Now, the thing with this is a lot like Brewmaster and Stagger type mechanics, where you deal more damage based on the incoming damage, which kind of sucks for Brewmaster right now, because Nazao doesn't really deal much damage in Heroic, because you're barely ever even in Yellow Stagger. But once you get into, like, higher content and you're actually taking damage, the amount of damage that you're going to be blocking is going to be much higher. If you ever look down at what a shield block like is negating and breaking down, it is stupid high. It is a lot of damage in high content, in higher end content. So I honestly think Tough as Nails is going to be a sleeper talent going into much higher end content, but you do have a lot of options to choose from. The rage generation with things like War Machine, Furious Blows for the increased attack power speed with that synergy, but also with Blood Surge, right? Your bleed effects now have a chance to grant you 5 rage. This is Deep Wounds, this is Rent, and this can be Thunderous Roar as well. So you can get a lot of boost from rage by just using Thunderous Roar. You can use it as a, you know, obviously a DPS cooldown that's going to do a lot of, you know, a decent amount of damage. I don't want to say a lot, but a decent amount of damage, but also generating you more rage, which kind of brings into the unnerving focus conversation. Last Stand increases your rage generation by 50%. I think there's a lot of really good rage generation options that when I was playing with this, I definitely noticed the 50%, but I didn't notice the times where I needed that 50% bonus, because mainly you're kind of trying to just spam Ignore Pains a lot when you've got that much rage generation going in, especially if you hit Thunderous Roar in that cooldown. Things are just flowing really, really well, but in content where, you know, you're gonna be taking a lot of hits, this could be very useful. But you also have things like Ravager and the 2 charges of it that can generate you a lot of rage. You got Blood Surge with you got Blood Surge with the rage generation off bleeds. There's a lot of different options here, and in all honesty, I never felt rage starved once on Prot Warrior. I always felt like I had a button to hit without too much bloat, and I always felt like I had a tool for every single scenario, which is really, really nice. And in all honesty, this is one of those trees that I can see myself clicking almost every single one of these talents in the spec tree at least once for one particular reason, for one reason or another. The only one that that's not true. Heroic Throw, improved Heroic Throw, I don't get it. Can you make Heroic Throw not have a cooldown again? One of the things that I noticed, and this was kind of like my only gripe, and if that's my only gripe, we are in very, very good territory, is I didn't realize how much I hit Heroic Throw in Mythic Plus on live. Now that it's a 3-second cooldown in Dragonflight, I'm trying to hit it and get some stuff coming to me at range, and I'm like, oh, it's on cooldown. That feels bad. Like, I'm sorry, but Heroic Throw doesn't deal enough damage, and we only have, like, the 1 ranged ability. Can you just let us have it? Like, can you just let us have it? It doesn't do anything. And the improved Heroic Throw, where Heroic Throw it deals 100% increased damage and inflicts deep wounds, honestly, I don't think is going to be enough. Not going to be worth it. We have too many other good talent point options that we have available to us. Another sneaky kind of thing that could be really, really good in higher end content is the Immovable Object talent, which is kind of the Prot Warriors version of Signet of Tormented Kings. Activating Avatar or Shield Wall casts the other at reduced effectiveness. So what you can be doing is you could actually be running Unbreakable Will, which gives you 1 additional shield shield wall charge, and grants 50% of its effects to party members. Now, this 50% of its effect to party members is going to be 25% damage at a 4 second DR, right? Damage reduction. length of time. And by casting Avatar or Shield Wall, I think the healing meta is actually going to have a lot of throughput healing needed. Judging by what I've seen some of these fights on Heroic, I think there's going to be points where there's going to be some very serious healing checks. I know healers have been complaining that they want to, not do damage and they want to actually go into a focus on healing. Well, I don't think that's going to happen given the actual spec and class trees. I definitely think there's going to be encounters where you're going to have to take that into mind. There are going to be some bosses in Mythic Plus that are your healing is actually going to matter that much more. I'm not saying just matter, I'm saying that much more. If you go into Sanguine Depths, you needed a healer that could get past those healing checks. And I think we're going to be getting more of those types of encounters throughout the dungeon. So something to look forward to, but Unbreakable Will combined with a movable object in a coordinated group could save your healer a lot of, healing needed, could prevent some deaths as well. A 25% party damage reduction is really, really good. Alright, I've been gushing about Warrior long enough. Honestly, how does this spec feel? Great. Do you have talent options? Absolutely. Do they feel good to take? Yes. Is it well balanced? For Prot Warrior it is, but in comparison to the other tanks, Prot Warrior's probably a little ahead on damage choices and everything else, which, in all honesty, to me is fine. I just spent the entirety of Shadowlands being a joke of a tank spec, and I cannot wait to be going into a Dragonflight with my favorite tank just actually being insanely good. That's going to feel really, really good to me, and honestly, this version of Prot, even if it isn't the meta, is one of the most fun versions of Prot Warrior I think we are going to have ever had as a base spec going into an expansion, right? I know there have been other versions of Prot Warrior that have been a lot of fun, but those required an external power source, legendaries, tier sets, or things like that. Where this, just the base kit, I think going in is going to be one of the best versions of Prot Warrior we've ever seen. But that is it for me today. What do you guys think about Prot Warrior going into Dragonlands, which I think has become the new de facto name for it among the community? But whatever. Happy tanking. Thank you very much. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, and have yourselves a good day.